Malcolm Louie here. Welcome to Eversprint.com. Today we're speaking with Ryan Vong, the CEO of Digital Pie, a fast-growing company that helps other companies leverage the marketing automation capabilities of the Marketo platform. Welcome to the call, Ryan.
Thanks for having me on.
Ryan, you grew your company's revenue from $1.3 million in 2014 to $5.5 million in 2017, a 323% increase, and now you're on track to hit $8.2 million in 2018. To achieve this rapid growth, what was your number one sales or marketing objective, and what challenges did you have to overcome to get there?
That is a very good question, and we actually think about that quite a bit. It really boils down to really one major thing, and it was really the same idea initially when we began, which was to create successful clients. I think that if that is your mission, then the rest of it kind of comes into play. And so early on when we started, we looked at companies when we engaged to see whether or not we could make them successful. So a lot of it is discovering what their needs are, what the objectives were, and whether or not we were the right ones to provide the services to be able to make that happen. And if the answer was no to that, we would not take on the client. And so through a lot of that filtering process, we were able to take on clients and do what we set out to do. And that itself has kind of blossomed and grown over the period of time. I think that in many ways we've kind of developed and built our whole infrastructure to make sure that the clients were successful. There are many examples of that, but one of the things that I saw when I was starting out, when we hired agencies to do our work, we noticed that there would always be a pitch team or an A team to come and pitch services. And quickly after you sign the contract, you'll get a secondary set of folks who actually are doing the work, who are not as good at this as the pitch team or the folks that were pitching. That always felt like it was the wrong approach. And so in our company, we get the folks that are experts in what they do and get them involved in the projects. And granted, it's, sometimes you look at that like it's a scaling problem, but I also look at it like it's a great challenge to get the best minds in a topic that they're good at. And once you get that, you can get a lot of things solved quickly. So our engagements are set up that way. Our whole company is structured that way. So if there are any projects that I'm a specialist in, I will be one person, opinion, and I will be part of that project. And so our clients always get the best people doing the work that they ask us to do. And so that feels good for us. That feels right for the client. And that only leads to success. And so everything we do kind of has that main focus on client success.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, right? I mean, there's a big difference between the A team who sells to you and then you get a totally different team who isn't as good on things that you really appreciate from the pitch team. It can really lead to customer disappointment.
Exactly.
So can you share how many clients you had back in 2014 when you had revenue of 1.3 million, and how many you're looking to have by the end of this year when you're up to 8.2 million?
If I think back, I believe at the time we were probably at 25, less than 30 customers.
Okay.
This year we were probably on pace to get closer to about 100. So it breaks out about that to that.
Okay. Much. So for the 25 who were with you back in 2014, are they still with you today?
A majority of them are, and a lot of our clients are. On average, our clients are with us for about 3 years. And a lot of that, the length of time a client's with us isn't really something we pride ourselves on in terms of like keeping customers forever. And there's a different mindset when we do the engagement. So, the other aspects, so when I started this company, I looked at things I did not like when I engaged with the company. And some of those tactics were, I'm going to make it so complex for you that everything you do, you rely on me to do. And I never really liked that feeling as well. So when we engage, we try to look at it from a perspective of, at some point, I need to hand this off. How best to train the client, teach them what we're doing, infuse lots of knowledge so that they can, be on their own and run their own instances. That is what they want. And that is what our goal and our objectives are. Now, in this scenario though, there's typically a lot of change, turnover within our clients' companies. Folks will move around. We tend to be the kind of like the stable inside the company. We're always there. We're always there to help, and we're always consistent about it. And so companies like that, and over time we kind of just become part of their company, and that's been the big surprise for us. And so our intent was that they will leave, but a lot of them love working with us, and so they stay. And so out of those companies, a majority of them are still around today.
Fantastic. So this year you're aiming, targeting, planning to have about 100 clients or so. So you've had over the past 3 years, 4 years, you've actually found 75, 80 new clients. How did you go about finding them?
A majority of our clients come from word of mouth. It's probably very similar to, startups and companies like ours, right? Our reputation is very important to us. When you get clients successful, they will refer. When you get, testimonials, when you get referrals, people do, background checks, they'll call up customers you've worked with. Those have always been good. And so a lot of companies now will just call up customers you work with without even letting you know that they're looking to contact you first, right? So a lot of that research is already done. And so we believe in that. And so that has been very helpful to us. Now, one of the things that we've done this year is actually acquired a smaller agency that is extremely talented in the marketing aspect of it. So, this year we closed a company called Rev Engine Marketing and integrated it. We're now starting to do a lot more in terms of outbound marketing, in terms of marketing, the tactics that we teach our clients about, the tactics that we preach about. Like, we're doing a lot of those things now to actually ramp. And so we're seeing returns. We talk about it, we know what we're doing. And so we're now having the opportunity to really do more for ourselves. And so I'm starting to see that mix change, and it'll be a lot different as we move into 2019 as well.
Now, did you say you acquired a marketing firm to help you with your outbound marketing? Or do you mean to say that you hired a firm?
We actually acquired a company that was I would say they're competitor of ours. But the CEO was also a good friend of mine, and they had a East Coast presence. And so we acquired them to kind of be part of the team. But one of the things I really, really liked about them was that they were, 5 people, but they were able to do such incredible content, incredible marketing just for their small agency that, it was just such a good win-win. And once we acquired them and I said, look, this is what I'd love you to do for us, build up the brand in our company. Now we're seeing tons more marketing. And so it was just I'd say the acquisition wasn't mainly for that, but it's been additive. It's been great, exponentially from the marketing front from our side.
Right. So with the five people that you've brought on board from this acquisition, how has your new customer mix changed? Like, what percentage are still coming from referrals, and what percentage is now coming from your outbound marketing efforts, and maybe perhaps your inbound marketing efforts?
I would say a majority of them are still referral based. What I am noticing that's different are we traditionally don't get net cold RFPs come our way, and so we're starting to see a lot more of those, which it's really fun times for us because here we are getting new RFPs asking about our services, and we're having to develop the relationship from names all the way through, right? So it's a new sales, dynamic that we didn't have before. And so I can say that, over the course of 2019, that will become even more. But right now, again, it's still, we brought on we acquired the agency. They also have relationships. They're growing their business in a very similar fashion. And so our network just got bigger.
Right. So what you're saying now is that because of the additional marketing, you're actually getting companies coming out of the blue asking you for an RFP.
That is correct. That
That's
is correct.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we
So what
know.
are you? Yep. Go on. Sorry.
I said, so we know that it's working.
Yeah, that's. It's always fantastic when you have those sort of opportunities coming to your door. I mean, you didn't spend any time to find them; they found you. It's the best. So Ryan, what are your objectives, your plans, your targets, say over the next 3 years, and what's the plan on achieving them?
Well, I mean, the primary target is going to continue to grow top line as well as EBITDA, our margins. I mean, all the traditional financial models that we want, we're going to target. Now, how we get there is going to be different. As of today, we're primarily on the Marketo platform. That mix is going to change in the next couple of months. We're going to, look at a more around the B2C area to see what types of systems and capabilities are out there to go after a completely different market. And I think from a B2B perspective, Marketo is the premier platform for it. With its recent acquisition by Adobe, I think it's going to bring in, another set of opportunities. And so that business is going to continue to grow. I think it's going to grow in a great pace. To add to that, we have to diversify. We have to look at additional platforms, and I didn't look at it from what are the other competitive platforms we can bring in, right? And that wasn't, we wanted to use the best in its space, and for B2B, Marketo was it. That story is undefined in the B2C space. I mean, there are quite a few avenues to explore there, and I'm hoping to add on an additional platform and to really focus on this audience coming up for 2019.
So earlier you said you see a need to diversify. Why do you think going into the B2C space is the way to do it?
I think it's one of these, and it's just the way I'm looking at it. Like when you win the B2B space and then you can win the B2C space, you win. I mean, like,
right.
There's like, it's just kind of, it's one of those like manifest destiny, kind of things. It's similar to most B2B platforms want to have a B2C spin, right? Marketo has its own way of saying, look, we not only serve B2B, we serve B2C. In reality, it doesn't do it at the scale that it needs to, right?
Okay.
And there are lots of opportunities for that. And I'm looking at it like, here's an additional opportunity, using very similar methodologies and processes. You swap out the language and you swap out some of the the intricacies of B2C.
Okay.
Looking into that, there's just so much more there that I think we can explore.
Okay. Do you have particular client targets, like numbers of additional clients you want over the next 3 years on the B2B side as well as on the B2C side?
We do. I mean, we actually have, our planning isn't as long, as most traditional companies. I mean, most folks will project out, 1, 2 to 3, 5 years out.
Okay.
We're not there. I mean, we plan out a year at a time, and we look at a quarter at a time and a month at a time. I mean, that is the nature of how fast our market changes, right? This acquisition came very suddenly. There are new use cases that come up. We're working with a company in North Carolina that purchased marketing automation, and it was a textile manufacturing company that would, take recycled products and spin them into yarn, and they were going to, use the system to market to suppliers of their materials. A very traditional company, was created in the 60s. It's nothing that we thought. It's like when you sell this stuff, you go, well, who does it really belong to? And you think tech companies will adopt it, but then we're starting to see a lot more industries adopt it. And so it changes. Once you have a use case like that, you can build upon those use cases. And so we look at it, in a very short window of time.
Okay. Can you share what, say, for example, what your client growth target is for 1 year on the B2B space and what your plans are to get there?
Sure. I think that, in 2019, in terms of client base, we are looking possibly to get, closer to 140 or so clients.
Uh,
Um,
Okay, so you're a 40% increase from your current levels.
yeah. The key is like the client contracts themselves as well, right? How deep of a footprint can we get? How big are those relationships? And I think we are starting to really, think through what our tier one, tier two, tier three accounts look like. What the characteristics are of those kinds of companies. And there's also, as our company is growing, we're also having to look at, who we traditionally served in the beginning might not be the same folks that we, can serve, like moving forward, right? As the company grows, there's a certain level of maturity that has to happen, and a certain level of pricing structure, and there's um, a certain level of expertise that our brand represents. And so all of those put pressures on your pricing, right? And
Right.
so the clients that you used to serve, 3 years ago, you might not be able to. And so that mix is going to be more important, I think, than the number of clients that we're gonna try to get.
Okay.
Just give you rough ideas.
Are they generally bigger clients and bigger deals?
They are. They're tending to be bigger clients and bigger deals now. A lot of that is just more and more of those clients are finding, the type of services, the type of technology, very useful for their organizations. I think those companies, take a lot longer to adopt something like this because, when you get into an enterprise, anywhere 2 billion or more, right? When they're rolling these automation systems out, the platform, you're affecting change for the whole company, and that's not something that's going to happen overnight. You work with clients that are a lot smaller. I mean, yes, let's just get sales, marketing alignment, get a platform, get some tactics. Let's go. Let's do this. It happens quicker, less people involved, right? So
Right.
complexity of the challenges are greater, which is taking longer. Now, because of the success, with the early adopters of this, inside these enterprise companies, we're starting to see a lot more that just say, you know what, it's kind of the equivalent of if you have a company, why wouldn't you have a website?
Right. Exactly.
If you do any marketing, why wouldn't you have an automation system? It's going to become more and more common. And right now, that's not there yet. There's still a lot of room for that. And we're starting to see that anybody who spends any money in marketing should have an automation system to help with the execution of it, to track the ROI of it, and there's a lot of process efficiencies from doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what's your plan on finding the 40 new clients? Well, actually, it might be a little bit more, right? Because you're going to have some clients who are, at the end of their life cycle and they're going to move on to take some other path. And so you might actually need to find more than 40. You might need to find 50 or 60 perhaps.
Yeah. Well,
So,
we're going to do a mix of things. One of the things that we preach and we teach out there is actually, account-based strategies. We're actually deploying that for ourselves. So we have very specific targets in mind of companies that we will target next year. We're tuning our marketing. Our marketing engine is, just getting started. And I'd say just getting started, meaning, we have all the infrastructure in place. We're now starting to put, campaigns and tactics through it. And so we're going to continue to test and measure this. The universe for us so far has been, it's good because it's been defined. We have some really good ideas, have done our research. And so it's a matter of getting in front of those clients, engaging them, through the similar things that we talk about. Are they in a place to look for services that we can offer? How do we best get their attention, get in front of them, make sure that it's a priority? So, these are all the nuts and bolts of, the thought patterns that have to happen before you even, launch something out there.
right. It's also good to see that you're eating your own cooking as well.
Yes. One of the neat things about, our company, and I said this early on because I'm, and part of it is our goes back to just the history of, me having to deal with this stuff. I love the research. I love the theories, but when it comes time to getting it done, I need the experience of someone who's done it, and so in that same way, whenever we look at all the growing technologies out there and what's out there, we love experimenting with them, saying, this actually seems to do this and work this way. As a marketer, I can probably fault myself for this. Almost everything we say sound the same, like the words seem the same and everybody's pitching it the same way. And it's hard to cut through that, and so we're a lot of the times a company that folks will come to and say, look, I'm thinking about buying these things. Tell me how you think it fits in or where it doesn't, down to a very granular level. Like technically this is what it does and this is how they are pitching it, but that's not the reality of it, and so, we do a lot of experiments in that way. And we, part of our mission is to set a lot of these, document a lot of that and share a lot of that knowledge. So it saves a lot more time for folks.
Yeah, definitely. And you're pre-selling them, and those who are only need the knowledge, they're probably not going to buy from you anyway, which is cool. But then there'll be others who say, yeah, this is fantastic, exactly what I want. We can't do this ourselves. Let's talk to these guys and get their take on things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Now, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for finding these 50 or 60 clients over the next year?
The biggest challenge, I think, will always be a matter of their priorities. It's always going to be as much as, and this is kind of an interesting, it's an interesting viewpoint, only because we think because we do a lot of automation things, we understand what's happening, and we are trying to get in front of the clients, and we have all the systems and the tools in place. People will buy when they're ready to buy. Ultimately, we can't control that, and the priorities that go on within the companies, we don't know what they are. Is marketing a key initiative? We hope so, but did that make it in? Is it an infrastructure project? Is it a security thing that they're looking at? So we're always competing with lots of priorities within the companies, and so our biggest challenge is really going to be understanding the strategic objectives of these companies and how they tie into our services, or how our services can support those objectives. That is it. If we can find out from all those companies, what those are and how we align to them and support them, then we have a pretty good shot at it.
Right. On the B2B side, on the B2C side, I know you're still looking at the platforms. Is it too early now to share what your targets might be in terms of getting clients on the B2C side?
It's a little bit early, but here's kind of there are some interesting parallels, and we are about to announce a partnership with a platform in a couple of months. That until all that's signed, I really can't reveal it. There are certain characteristics that are, that are very similar to what we're doing. If you think about, things that happen in that world, e-commerce types of transactions, and large, we're talking millions of people in databases, right? They need automation probably more so than a B2B marketer, right? When you pay and you buy something, you're expecting the response to come back immediately, right? Of your purchase, your coupons, whatever they are. And those are, sent out in the millions. You'll need workflows to govern, the processes for how that happens. You'll need a medium to deliver it into the mediums that they interact with, right? And you also need to understand a lot more about this, the buyers, specific individual buyer behaviors now, not a B2B, buying committee, right? This is all individual. So the marketing changes, but the infrastructure, the logic, and how all that functions is still very much automation process centric. And so their characteristics are very similar. And I think that with us having this experience, we can help, think through that. Because right now, when I look in that world, all I see right now are really, major email platforms that play in that space. The big platforms that just send out emails as a response, but it's not a coordinated effort to get data, to understand buyer journeys, and be able to act upon it and, trigger at the right times. And so, there are some things out there right now, but it's still, it's not as structured as that I see it in the B2B world.
Right. Now, do you see the challenges of hitting your B2C client targets similar to finding the B2B, namely, understanding where they're coming from, understanding what their priorities are, understanding what their strategies are, and seeing how your service can fit into that? Would it be similar along those lines, or do you anticipate a different process?
I think it'll be similar, but it's, for us, it's going to be, how do we build our story, right? With the experience. It's kind of like when we started this company, it's like, who are you? How do you, prove that you can do what you're saying, right? It's like doing it all over again, except with, a lot more experience, a lot more, trips and falls and mistakes we've made, right? Now we can, and we have a track record, and we have, a lot more money to try to, get better data and understanding. So I don't think that, I think the challenges are going to be harder because the companies that have those relationships with their end customers are going to be bigger. And this is more transactional, more real time. When you make a mistake in emails that affect millions of people, that's very different than accidentally sending emails to, a B2B audience, for a webinar that had the wrong date or something.
Yeah.
They're just as bad, but one affects, one has some legal ramifications if you send the wrong coupons or discounts or whatever, right?
Right. And, it's easier to apologize to 100 people than, 300,000.
Exactly.
So, two last questions for you, Ryan. Who are your ideal clients, and what's the best way for them to get in touch with your team?
I would say, our ideal clients right now, from a revenue perspective, and I have to say it that way now, it's not that, it's there are exceptions to this, but generally anybody, companies with revenues of 500 million or above are a fit for us, that are in need of really understanding, and being able to translate and prove their marketing spend to ROI. And obviously folks that have the Marketo platform are a natural fit for us. And I think, I'd say give us a shot, just info@digitalpie.com or, contact us on digitalpie.com. We are pretty responsive for any new sales inquiries.
Would you mind spelling out your domain name?
Sure. It's digitalpi.com. So digital pi as in the sequence of numbers that represent the circle.
Yes, the irrational number.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much, Ryan, for spending time with me today and sharing how you grew your company so fast.
Well, thank you for having me on, Malcolm, and I appreciate you taking the time.
We've been speaking with Ryan Vong, the CEO of Digital Pie, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing companies, or to learn how we can increase your firm's high-ticket sales through automation, visit eversprint.com.